Sounds like something in a story. Not too hot, not too cold, just right. Not too high, not too low, not too quiet, not too loud, just right.
Hello, Bashr.
Good day to you. And so, what's your story?
My story is I am not going to hold back.
Oh, all right.
I am not going to hold back.
When you are making, on your planet, a movie, what starts the story rolling? The word action. So important in living your story is to incorporate all the ideas, all the energy, all the beliefs into actual physical action, as you say, not holding back, because you have chosen to be physically experiential beings. It is very important for you to ground your energy, ground what you prefer, ground your excitement into physical reality to attract physical manifestation and shifting to the reality you prefer through the completion of the circuit called physical action. So, you have decided to act who you are. Do not hold back. Very good. What else?
Okay, the dichotomy of that is I came up here to New Jersey this weekend to also surrender.
Yes.
I came here I have used my mind for 55 years to try and understand life and existence and reality. And
must be tired.
Yeah.
Poor little mind.
It's been 55 years of intense aerobic exercise, and yes. I'm tired of doing that. I want to surrender to my heart, but I would like to be who I know myself to be, yes. Which is bold.
Yes. So you are willing to act on your excitement, which if you do in the purest form, will actually be experienced as surrendering to your total self, and thus will be experienced in a joyful and effortless way even as you act? Is that what you mean?
I would like to integrate the two so that they're...
Yes, that's what we just said.
Yeah.
The idea of surrender doesn't mean you take no action. The idea of surrender is to start to go with the flow of your true self so that all the action you take will not be struggle, but will be joy, will be play, will be effortless. You will still take action, but by surrendering to yourself, all the action will be exciting, will be joyful, will be pleasurable. That doesn't mean to surrender that you take no action.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
It makes total sense.
Is that what you meant?
It is what I meant.
All right. And so you will start doing this now? I sense hesitation.
I am right now in my life. I am performing something that I have had the most fun with of anything I've ever done.
Oh, thank you.
In my life. Now,
yes.
That whole idea of excitement leading to excitement.
Yes.
I don't have the next chapter planned.
You're not necessarily supposed to completely plan it out, you know. Remember that your physical mind has no capacity to know what's going to happen or how it's going to happen. Only your higher mind does. So the idea is that while the physical mind can form just a sufficient enough framework to know exactly where the hallway is you need to walk down, you can let your higher mind surprise you with exactly how you will be walking down that hallway. So you don't need to plan the whole thing out physically. Make sense?
Yes, that makes sense.
So the idea of excitement leading to excitement will simply be that once you have some degree of understanding of the framework or the structure, then you can simply get on about the business of acting to the best of your ability at every given moment on whatever opportunity has presented itself to you at that moment that contains the highest amount of excitement. And if you act on it without any expectation of what kind of manifestation or fruition it needs to come to, and you simply go forward to the best of your ability, taking it as far as you possibly can, as far as you are able to, without that expectation, then that will always put you in the proper place, at the proper time, with the proper people, to know exactly, synchronistically, what the next thing is that you need to take action on. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
This is just physics, you know.
Sure, that makes sense.
All right. Is this something that you believe you can incorporate into your story?
I'm okay with spontaneity. I'm okay with just...
It's not just about what you call spontaneity, although that's a large factor. It doesn't mean that you give up thinking. It doesn't mean that you cannot see to some degree what the structure is, and it does not mean you cannot choose to gravitate in a particular direction according to your choices. Nevertheless, the idea is that you can allow much more synchronicity to reveal itself to you so that you don't have to overthink it. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Does that feel lighter?
Yes, it feels lighter.
But there is still some hesitation.
Well, yeah, here's the deal.
All right. The deal. All right. What's the deal?
Here's the deal. I understand following the path of excitement and
One moment. We would like to offer you an opportunity to be a little bit more precise in your definitions here, because we often hear people on your planet say this to us. Well, I understand it intellectually, but I don't quite grasp it on this level or that level. Let's just be clear about this. If you're not actually doing it, you don't understand it. Because to understand is to do, is to know, is to be. That's what true understanding is. That's why understanding comes with experience. Because the idea is that when you understand something, you don't think about it, you just do it. That's understanding. There is no disconnection between understanding and action. So we know what you mean when you say that, but the truth is, if you're not actually acting in that way, you actually have not yet arrived at understanding, because I guarantee you, the moment you actually understand it, nothing will stop you from acting that way. So as long as there is any hesitation in your action, you actually don't yet have a complete understanding of it.
And again, that's only because I guess what my fear is,
yes,
when this little episode of what I'm doing right now,
yes,
comes to an end, which is a volunteer project for my church,
yes,
which I'm totally engaged in.
What is your fear?
My fear is...
Here comes that part of the story.
Well, it's a lapse of, okay,
lapse.
What is this going to move on to next?
Who cares?
Well,
let me ask you a question. What you're actually saying is, and in conjunction with the idea that you say you are volunteering for your church, you are lacking faith. So the idea really is to go beyond faith into knowingness. If you really understand the principles and the concepts of what we're talking about, if you really understand the structure of existence and how reality works, you won't have to actually have faith. You can know that whatever it is that is the next thing that happens will be exactly what needs to happen. And when you respond to whatever happens with that knowledge, with that certainty, with that attitude, and in that energy, then you will see how whatever it is that has happened next will serve you as the stepping stone you actually needed at that moment. You don't need to know what it is before you take the step. In fact, you can't know what it is until you take the step. So the idea is actually, even though I know that many of you use the word faith, it's actually going beyond faith into knowingness. You actually don't need faith. You need to know. You need to understand how reality works. So let me put it to you in a very simple fashion. Whatever it is that happens next, you know that something will happen, yes? How likely is it that nothing will happen? Or as one writer once said, suddenly, nothing happened. How likely is it that nothing at all will happen? Wouldn't you say that that likelihood is most probably, let's say 0? Something's going to happen next, right?
Well, Bashr, I'll be honest with you. That thought of nothing happening, nothing is a relative term to me. Okay?
Let's put it this way. You see, this comes from a lack of understanding of the nature of existence itself.
Thank you.
It is not possible for you to experience non-existence by definition. Non-existence means there is no experience. You cannot experience non-existence because you already exist. Existence only has one quality: to exist. That which exists doesn't become that which doesn't exist. That which doesn't exist already doesn't exist. And non-existence is already full of all the things that will never exist. There's no room in non-existence for that which does exist. Do you understand these concepts as they translate into your language?
Yes.
So it's not actually possible. This is one of the few things that is actually truly impossible. It is not possible for that which is to no longer be that which is. That's its only quality. It's the first law of creation. You exist. That's it. You can't do anything about that. You'll change. That's another law. You'll transform how you exist, but the fact of your existence is woven into the very fabric of existence itself, and that can't change. And let me put it this way, it's not something to worry about, because if it actually were possible for that to change, you wouldn't know that it had changed anyway, because there is no experience in non-existence. So if you were to become non-existent, you wouldn't know it. So what's to be afraid of? So the point is that whatever it is that happens next, there has to be something that happens next, because that's the only thing that can happen in existence, and you can't become non-existent. Are you following that so far?
I do follow that. Can I introduce a subplot to the story?
Oh, a subplot. All right.
And it really becomes a matter of focus. Okay, there's as I see it, there's two ways you can go in life.
Oh, all right.
You can accentuate the positive and look forward to the next experience.
Yes.
And do that.
Yes.
And let that lead into something else.
Yes.
And ever and ever and ever.
Yes.
Or you can go, let's talk about the negative side.
All right.
Of who I am and what I'm trying to resolve.
You can accentuate the negative and let that lead to the next thing and the next thing. But you see, the point still is there will still be a next thing.
Or try and understand.
No, understand. There is no trying to understand. You either understand or you don't.
Okay. All right.
Now, let me put it to you this way. One moment. A further subtle explanation. We understand what you mean by trying to understand. We understand what you mean by process. Nevertheless, here's the actual truth about what a process is. A process is not actually in any way, shape, or form trying to understand. A process is simply getting to the point where you finally give yourself permission to understand. So the idea is that you may simply go through an experience and still not give yourself permission to understand. And you may do that again and not give yourself permission to understand. And in all of those experiences, you are actually not trying to understand. You're actually choosing to not understand.
Okay.
And eventually you get to the point where you finally don't need to choose that, and you suddenly choose to simply understand. All of the times you chose to not understand do not actually, literally, physically, mechanically have anything at all to do with your ability in the next moment to choose to understand. Any process you went through that made it seem as if that gave you more ability to understand actually didn't give you more ability. It just gave you more time for you to let it be all right to finally choose to understand.
Okay, well, let's talk about a way I can understand something that I've been trying to understand for a long time.
All right, and that would be what?
Something that...
Be specific.
Okay, this does not... The irony of it is, this does not seem native to me.
We love irony.
It does not seem...
Native to you.
It does not seem natural. I do not know...
Yes.
I do not know why I hang on to a certain fear.
Of what?
Of I don't know.
Yes. Of what? Understand right now, you're sitting in your movie theater watching your movie, and you're allowing the film to break. Get to the point where the fear presents itself, invite it in, so you can get on with the movie.
Of not willing to be who I know myself to be.
Because you fear that if you do, what will happen? You see, this is one of the strongest ways to find out what your fears actually are, is to actually amplify and magnify them by allowing yourself to imagine what the worst possible thing you fear might happen is, should you allow yourself to actually be who you say you prefer to be. So what's the worst possible thing you imagine might happen if you did? Be who you prefer to be. Give it voice. Get it out there. Because once you get it out there, once you actually say what you fear the worst thing is, then you have something to work with. Then you have a really good villain. Then you can become a really strong hero. So, invent a really good villain. What's the worst thing you fear will happen if you actually allow yourself to become who you prefer to be? Spit it out.
Too much exposure is the only thing I can think of.
Exposure to what? Exposure to what? In what way? Seems like you're getting some help from the peanut.